In the previous video, we learnt how to grab and load certificates so that we can use them to certificate pin our requests in alamofire. Now it's time to see how we actually implement it. In Xcode, open networkclient.swift. In the root requests video, we actually laid some of the groundwork for this by centralizing all our network calls in the network client type and having the shared client configure a session. Below the session property, create a new dictionary called evaluators. This dictionary is going to contain a list of items with the keys being the host names we want to pin and the certificates we'll accept for those host names. Add the api.imager.com hostname and create an instance of pin certificates trusts evaluator using the imager certificate from our certificate type. Then do the same for the Wikimedia hostname. Finally, change the session initialization to pass in a custom server trust manager. This will take our list of evaluators. That is all we need to do. alamofire will take care of the rest and make sure the TLS certificate presented when we connect to the different hosts matches the one we expect. Build and run the app to make sure everything still works. To prove it actually works, we're going to break our Wikimedia host. In the evaluators dictionary, change the value for upload.wikimedia.org to pass an empty array. This means we won't accept any certificate for Wikimedia. Build and run the app and try to download a sample image. You'll see we get a security error in the console. Remember to undo your changes so it works again. Sometimes you might want to extend the functionality of alamofire. So far, most of our requests have been fairly simple. We send a request and check the response. Even the certificate pinning follows that model with a few checks on the response. In this video, we're going to learn how to retry requests. This is a common requirement. For instance, when interacting with an API that uses OAuth tokens. If the access token has expired, we want to catch that, get a new access token, and resend the request without having to change every network call. Another example is retrying requests that might fail, but succeed on a second attempt. You may have actually noticed that some of your requests to Imager fail. This is because the API is rate limited when using a free account. In this video, we're going to see how to wait and then retry the request again. Download the materials for this project or use the project from the previous video if you're following along. Open the app in Xcode and open networkclient.swift. Just like when implementing certificate pinning, because we've centralized our network calls, it's relatively easy to add a retryer. alamofire has the concept of a request interceptor. This is something that intercepts requests before the requests are sent and again when they return before they reach our response handlers. Inside Network Client, create a new struct called Network Client Retryer and make it conform to Request Interceptor. In Network Client, add a new property for our retryer. And construct an instance of it in the initializer. We can then pass that to our session. Any future requests will use our retryer, so let's add some functionality to it. The request interceptor protocol has two functions, adapt for changing requests before they're sent and retry, and has default implementations for both. We're going to implement the retry function. The function provides the request that was sent, the error received, and a completion handler for us to use. First, check that we get a 403 error, which is the error the API returns when we've sent too many requests a second. Here we ensure we have a response as an HTTP URL response and that the status code is 403. If so, we'll retry the request with a delay of 1 second. If we don't meet these conditions, we'll just fail the request and pass the original error on. Here we're actually calling the completion handler with a note to not attempt to retry, and return that error so it can be handled outside. For instance, if the server is down, we can handle that error in our code in the view controller. Build and run the app and try to upload an image. Previously, you may have seen the tags or colors request fail, but now you'll notice it wait for a second instead.